Hi, my name is Michael Marchetti, and today I will be discussing open source software. What is open source? Open source software is software that is released with a special license that allows for anyone to freely use the software, as well as modify and distribute it. Open source software is a somewhat complicated topic with both many pros and cons. Open source software is free, constantly improving. Help is easily available and anyone can edit it. That being said, the quality is often lagging behind that of paid software, and the quality is also sometimes inconsistent. With all that in mind, let's take a deeper look at the pros and cons of open source software. Open source software is truly free. There are no fees to download it, and there are no subscriptions needed to keep using it. Businesses can save hundreds, thousands, or more by using open source software in order to avoid buying licenses for each employee. Open source software is constantly being improved by its users. With the more popular softwares, there is an active user base, enthusiastically improving the software for themselves and others. While paid software does get updates, open source software, since it is being edited by a large group of users rather than a few developers, can often be improved quicker. Since the users are the ones doing the updating, the users can get the changes and additions that they find most useful first, and perhaps sooner than an agency could offer. Anyone can edit open source software, meaning anyone from anywhere in the world has access to the inside workings of open source software. That means you can get different perspectives and perhaps a more well-rounded product than a software product built by an agency in a single city could offer. It's easy to get help with open source software because the people who built it and update it are also users. The people who update open source software are enthusiastic enough to do so without getting paid. So, they are often enthusiastic enough to want to help other users who may be experiencing difficulty or have questions. With all these pros, there are still some cons to open source software. The first of which is inconsistency. It is freely distributed, so you can get it from multiple sources. However, because it is freely edited, the software you get from one source may be different than the software you get from another source. The quality you get from one version can differ drastically to the next. The quality is also a question in open source software. Software companies put large amounts of money into hiring the best developers they can, and software companies often have much more riding on the quality of their software compared to the people who built open source software. That being said, a lot of times you can find open source software that is of equal quality to paid software if you look hard enough. The most popular examples of open source software include Linux, Android, WordPress, PHP, MySQL, and others. Android is the most popular mobile operating system in the world, powering over 75% of phones globally. It was created by Google and given away to anyone who wishes to use it and implement that on their hardware devices. However, the Android that we know and are familiar with that is used by Samsung on their Galaxy smartphones, LG, HTC, and other high-end smartphone manufacturers is not quite open source. Google Maps, Hangouts, and other apps and features of Android that make it popular and that we are familiar with are not open source and are instead licensed from Google. Because the Android that we are familiar with does use some licensed features and apps, it is not quite as open source, giving Google more control over the final product. Linux is the third most popular PC operating system, after Microsoft's Windows and Apple's OS X. Linux is free to use and anyone can update and edit it. Over the years, as people began to change Linux, several versions have emerged, making it very versatile. That being said, you must be sure to use the correct version depending on your needs and wants. When using open source software, you should always make sure that it is right for the job. And businesses should be careful to rely on open source software as it can be inconsistent or can have security concerns. That being said, open source software will continue to grow and improve, become an even more popular choice for both consumers and businesses. Thank you.